Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and you might know me from my own YouTube channel centered around strategy, management, and sim gaming. But today I'm here in collaboration with Paradox to help you in surviving the aftermath. Our topic today is colony management, and we'll touch on resource acquisition, storage organization, job assignment, and disaster management. These are core aspects of surviving the aftermath, and if you have an understanding of these basic elements, you'll be able to take on even the most challenging of circumstances. With no time to waste in the middle of an apocalypse, let's begin. When first establishing your campsite and building structures, try and keep an eye out for fertile soil. Use the overlay to seek out the regions marked in green and yellow, and make sure to keep them free for farming and acquiring groundwater. So, try to minimize how much you obstruct them with other buildings if possible. Keep an eye out for pollution too. While you'll be able to remove it later in the game, in the earlier days of your colony, it will cause colonists to get sick, and things will be over before they begin. After you've established your campsite, brought in your colonists, and set them up with some housing, you'll immediately need to start considering resource acquisition and storage. Across the top bar, you'll find all the various resources you need to manage. Happiness and welfare come from making the right decisions and looking out for your colonists' needs, while colonists themselves are either the result of other survivors joining your colony or new births at your colony itself. Children can either help transport goods as carriers or attend school to be more efficient as adults. Adults, meanwhile, can do all sorts of jobs, and the elderly can too, though they can't have children. Colonists are the lifeblood of your colony. They keep everything operational, and if they grow unhappy or unwell, they'll leave, one way or another. Food and water are essentials for survival, while energy is needed to operate more complex buildings further down the line. Wood and plastic are your initial construction materials, and you won't have access to metal or concrete until a bit later when you need to start building more complicated structures. Parts and components are needed much further along, and they need to be manufactured, while tools help some jobs work more efficiently. Clothes, weapons, and medicine provide three very different kinds of protection, and they all need to be manufactured as well. Firewood is chopped from wood and is needed for cooking and generating heat, while science points and currency are acquired through actions we'll discuss in a later video. Trade and scavenging outside of the colony can provide not just these, but many of the other resources too. Meanwhile, the miscellaneous items here are usually midpoints in a production chain, byproducts of them, or they provide a utility beyond basic survival. Let's use the first few resources to understand some core concepts. We've got 3 different sources of food set up at our colony: picking berries at these bushes, fishing at the pier, and hunting and preparing venison at the trapper. One important thing to keep in mind is that resources are actual physical entities. Just because something is available up here doesn't mean people have instant access to it across your entire colony. The food storage, for example, was placed close to the bushes to minimize the amount of time colonists have to travel between the bushes and the storage space itself. When the bushes eventually run out, I can establish a new hut elsewhere, but then my berries will be stored into separate locations, and with such a small colony for now, I'd rather have food be in a centralized area. Instead, we'll adjust the work zone of this same gathering hut to some other nearby berries. It's okay, we won't rely on berries for very long anyway. Things work a little differently at the pier. Rather than having to travel to fish, our colonists stand at the dock and fish away. By default, only a single colonist will be assigned to the pier, and when they catch fish, they'll carry it to the nearest drop-off point. As they're gone, this pier sits idle, wasting precious seconds, so we'll assign a second colonist to work here. Keep in mind that colonists can either be carriers who move resources around as needed and build and repair structures, or they can be assigned jobs such as this. They can only have one job though, so at times you'll want to consider what you need more urgently and swap assignments accordingly. With some jobs, you can set production limits at the buildings, and the jobs will automatically open up or close down depending on the target quantity versus the current stockpile. The trapper works as a blend of the prior 2 buildings. You have to assign a suitable work zone, and you can have multiple colonists. But with a few researched upgrades built, the trapper becomes a hunting cabin and produces not only venison, but fibers as well. Fibers are great for a few reasons, and we want to use them at our tailor to produce clothes. Let's make sure the fibers are stored as close to the tailor as possible with a bit of storage management. Fibers can't be dropped off at the food storage, so we don't have to worry about that, but right now the campsite is closest to the hunting cabin, so our hunters just drop the fibers off there. This means the tailor has to walk all the way around to pick up fibers and then all the way back to start working. Instead, we'll tell the campsite not to store any fibers, and we'll make sure our stockpile up here is accepting fibers. Now the tailor just has to go across the street to pick up his fibers, once again saving precious seconds and becoming significantly more efficient. Granted, they still have to drop the end product off at the campsite, but making similar arrangements to drop clothes off at a warehouse can change that. These simple concepts add up as you get further along with your colony. As time goes on and as your colony grows, you'll need to research additional work slots, ways to improve efficiency of existing buildings, and entirely new buildings altogether. You'll want to upgrade to better housing to maintain happiness, and you'll want to produce better food to maintain health and wellness. As production chains get more complex, you'll need to manage more moving parts. For example, cooks need to pick up ingredients and firewood to prepare meals. The ingredients in question depend on the recipe you pick, and the firewood comes from the logger chopping the wood collected from scraps or cut down from trees. Meanwhile, the ingredients need to be gathered, hunted, or grown and harvested. You'll shift from a hunter-gatherer society to one that farms and raises its own livestock or uses alternative proteins, but as you do so, you'll need to start generating and storing power and diverting some of your water for purposes other than drinking. You'll want to ensure you're keeping pollution from outhouses and burial sites far from high-traffic areas, lest people start to fall ill, and you'll want to build an appropriate healthcare system in case of irradiation, injury, sickness, and more. You'll switch jobs on and off as you find yourself more in need of certain services than others at times, and most importantly, you'll prepare for harsher weather and all sorts of catastrophes that might strike at any moment. Winter is a dangerous thing, especially if you haven't set up burners, researched heating for homes, or stockpiled food for the winter. Colonists, crops, and livestock will all start to die without proper care, and somehow that's not the worst thing nature will throw your way. Random catastrophes like heat waves, pandemics, meteor showers, nuclear fallout, and more can come with just a moment's notice and devastate your sense of security. You'll get a warning when a catastrophe is about to strike, and you can extend the duration of that warning by researching the appropriate technologies, but take some time to familiarize yourself with the possibilities and their corresponding outcomes. While stockpiling food and water might have obvious benefits right from the get-go regardless of your situation, don't underestimate the need to build stacks upon stacks of batteries to store power that'll help your buildings remain operational during a magnetic storm. Iodine pills are necessary to survive the radiation that's more likely to happen during a nuclear fallout, while antibiotics are essential in fighting the increased rate of sickness during a pandemic. Heat waves will kill crops, so you'll want to harvest whatever you can before they hit, and almost all catastrophes will see the demand for water skyrocket, while some will force you to switch more people into medical roles. Surviving the aftermath of an apocalypse isn't easy, and when nature isn't out to get you, bandits are. While they might not be listed as catastrophes, they can certainly cause you a lot of trouble if you haven't built any guard posts and don't have colonists at the gate when trouble comes knocking. Make sure to get your colonists and specialists to help defend your colony should outsiders look to cause you trouble, and when all is said and done, hopefully enough colonists survive to keep things running. From collecting and organizing resources, to manufacturing products, to defending your home from all sorts of trouble, you should now have the basics of colony management down pat. But among your colonists are some unique individuals who can help in some unique ways. The specialists. We'll be discussing them in the following video, so make sure to subscribe to this channel to keep up with these guide videos as they release. But until next time, cheers.